Hello everyone, my name is Alex and I do work a lot with call manager and VOS service in general troubleshooting. And in this video I wanted to show you quickly how to do a health check from voice operating system CLI, because this is one of the type of questions I receive, like maybe not every day but once a week for sure. So I hope it will be useful. So what I offer and what I use is a list of these, I'm not sure, maybe 10, maybe a bit more commands. And I just wanted to just execute them and comment what I pay attention to in the output. So the first command would be show status. In the show status, definitely I pay attention to a host name, especially when it comes to like host name changes. It may and then you can write it down and you have a host name of the node. And most importantly, the host name is used as a reference that the commands that we execute after this one will need to somehow tie to this host name, right? So we need to understand where, on which node commands were executed. So obviously version, right? So I have call manager 11.5, one of the newest versions. And this is also I pay attention to, especially when it comes to not a call manager server, but let's say FNS or CUIC, some servers that are based on VOS, but they are from the application suite. These servers I mentioned, they are from contact center application suite. Obviously uptime, right? So this gives a lot. Let's say when the system was restarted last time, if you are a partner and you work with the end customer, then you need to rely on some facts, right? And let's say if you ask for some information like when the system was restarted, this is where you can actually verify that it was restarted 4 days ago. Not just the service was restarted, but the whole platform. Let's say it was reboot. Another important piece of information would be CPU idle. This is the actually the reverse value of the CPU utilization. So here 97% or 96.98%. That means that server CPU utilization is 3% at this moment in time when I executed this command. So if it's below, let's say, if it's below 70%, then it's good. I mean, if CPU utilization below 70% is good. If it's spikes, it also can be normal because of some operations like database replication can utilize CPU, and that's also normal until it will finish. IO wait. So I pay attention to this command a lot because it should be less than 2%. Usually it should be below 1%, I would say, and it's very desirable for it to be very close to 0%. So if you have, let's say, above 2%, like a constant spikes, or maybe 5%, that's a clear indication of some problems you have on your system. Maybe with SUN, maybe with your directly attached storage with your RAID. I'm not sure, it's hard to say based on only this output, but if you have above 2%, I would check additionally. You have memory, but I'm not paying attention to this one usually because from my experience it's quite rare to have memory issues, like RAM memory issues. So I pay attention to these three parameters, actually two of them. So the first one will be active, which here is 64%. If it's below 90-95%, that's fine, because this partition is used by the system mostly for the database. And since you cannot remove tables from the database or some data from the database, from the Informix database, you cannot remove this value like dramatically. So you can maybe remove a couple of files, but this would not impact, I think, even it will not decrease on 1% even. So if you have more than, let's say, 98-99% of utilization here, I would suggest to contact Cisco TAG. The logging you can deal with on your own. So here I have 74%. In the logging partition, we store logs. So what you can do, you can just use the command file list, for example, active log, and then you can navigate to some folder, for example, and this is my call manager server, so I can navigate to active log CCM trace CCM SDL, and remove a couple of these files with the appropriate command. It would be file delete active log CM trace CCM SDL, and then what you can do, you can, for example, remove like all the files with no confirm, like that, like with a similar command, and this should remove a couple of log files, which will give you additional space in the system. This may take some time. Let's go back. Okay, so as you can see, files found 100 and files deleted 100. Sometimes I saw that there are permission errors displayed when you try to delete these. In that case, you have to also contact Cisco TAG for help. So the next command, so as you can see, this show status command, it gives you a lot of very good information, like essential details. So the other commands also are useful, but they will not give you this big amount of information. So show tech network hosts I use a lot because when I'm dealing with database replication troubleshooting. So here what we see output from Linux etc hosts file. So when you change host name, sometimes you can see a mismatch between your between the information stored here in show status. Actually, I will execute show status once again. And you may have a mismatch between this and this, because this is taken from the database and this is taken from the Linux operating system etc host file. So that's one thing. And the second thing, why I'm using that, I'm just copying this information about all nodes in the cluster and just add it to my troubleshooting ticket. That's very convenient. So next command would be utils NTP status. Again, when troubleshooting database replication, time sync is one of the most important things to check. So here you see that my server, my publisher, is synchronized with the Stratum 2, which is good. And then this is the IP address of my NTP server. So what you need to pay attention to is that just it would be synchronized. And definitely you need to remember that Cisco VOS servers support only NTP protocol version 4. So let's say if you use Windows Server, default NTP, it is using different time sync protocol. So do not use it. Do not use this default Windows NTP server. So next command, it is util service list. And util service list gives you basically a list of services running on that system and what services are in started state, for example, Cisco Call Manager or Cisco Call Manager admin service. Then it gives you services that are stopped or not started, like dialed number analyzer server and some other services, right? And what I use as well is a primary node true. So sometimes when I just log into the system, I don't know which node is primary and which is a publisher and which is a subscriber. So to find the publisher, you can just run this command and pay attention to this primary node true. The next command I type is db replication runtime state. So db replication runtime state is a very important command to type when you troubleshoot database replication issues. And there are a couple of things I pay attention to. So the first one is call sync result. Sync completed. All tables are synchronized. Again, all tables are in sync. If you see that something is strange, let's say sync is in progress or not all tables are in sync or mismatches are found, something like that, then you need to think about your database replication. Is it in sync or not? And if you're not sure how to troubleshoot database replication, you know that you can contact Cisco Doc. Then you will see this thing like a replication timeout. A replication timeout has to be set correctly if you have more than 5 nodes in the cluster. And there is a separate article how to set the database replication timeout on a publisher. Also, what I can see that in the database replication, I have 2 nodes that are participating, and these are IP addresses of these nodes. You see here, this is very important that all the checks are good, like yes, 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 that database, remote procedure call can, let's say, reach the other node, and DB mon services up as well. Replication group, you can see G2, G3. This can be useful in some cases, and you have to pay attention to this too. 2 means it's in good shape. It has to be on all nodes, and this command has to be executed on a publisher. So next thing will be show network ETH0. And what I can see here, so I can see IP address of this node. So this is again taken from the database, and this is taken from Linux, like this IP address. Also, I see the primary and secondary DNS servers and domain in which this node is configured, and the gateway. Next, so these things are useful to check if you change your host name or IP address. So the next thing, what I sometimes request is show hardware. Before it was very useful, and now when everything is virtualized, it's not like really useful. But what you can check with this command is more or less the OVA template that was used. Like, for example, here you have 4 CPUs, 8 gigs of memory, and 110 gigabytes of hard disk space. So this is what I rarely check. Another command that I used is I'm checking the amount of users configured on that system. This can be used for, firstly, when you troubleshoot database replication, you can compare the amount of users on the, let's say, publisher and subscriber. You can add one user on the publisher and check the output from this command on publisher and subscriber. If publisher will have the same amount that the subscriber has, then your database replication, at least for this table, works fine. So this is like a basic sanity test. And the second thing what I use this is actually more important to me, is just to have some kind of estimation about the size of this system. So for example, if the system has 10 users configured, then most likely this is not very critical to the business, right? But if it has like 5,000 users configured, I would think twice before executing some changes, right? Next command would be utils core active list. So what this gives you is the list of core files generated on this node. So here what we see that my CTI manager process crashed on 18th of May, and it generated this core file. So this may be a concern. So then you have to refer to troubleshoot to the articles when you need to troubleshoot CTI manager crashes or service crashes in general. So this is just to check that there are no recent process crashes. Then what I check is show version active. Show version active gives you a list of installed COP files on the system, along with an active version for that system. So sometimes, let's say, to do some upgrade, you need to install as a prerequisite some COP file. And here I can check if customer actually installed this COP file. And you need to execute this command on all nodes in a cluster, because usually you need to install the same COP file on all nodes. What also is useful when you troubleshoot like upgrade issues, when the customer cannot perform switch from inactive to active partition, then you can see where we are at this moment. And you can also execute the command show version inactive. This is, I do not request it, but you can check it and see that I upgraded my system from 11.01. And the last command, which I request like every single time for every single case, is this one, is file dump install actually system history like that. So what this gives us the information about the system. It's like the file, txt file, that has all the entries for initial installation, for boot ups, shutdowns, restarts, some COP file installation that I perform. So you can see that this system was firstly installed from the scratch in 2015, May 18th. Then I installed a couple of locales on the same system in December. Then I upgraded it to Respin 2 at the very beginning of 2015, so on and so forth. What is also important, you see when the last backup was successfully executed, you see that my last backup is actually taken today, because I have scheduled backups on the weekend, and as I can see that it was taken successfully. And what I check every time is what happened with the system recently. So the recent change is that the system was rebooted on May 30th, and then I would start asking why the system was rebooted, and maybe this can be correlated with the problems that you have or may have. So that's all that I do. That doesn't take too much time, and I hope that will be useful for you.